Hello, my name is Shaughnessy, and I am doing a video on Leo rising for the new moon that was on March 13th, 2021. And the new moon is in Pisces, 23 degrees. So for Leo rising, that would fall actually in this person's 8th house. And the 8th house represents transformation, death and rebirth, not necessarily a physical death, but a death of the old you. You're going through a transformational change, or it's somebody in your life, because it also represents an inheritance. So an inheritance could come through. It also represents taxes, death, birth, death and rebirth, not really birth, but it could be like a birthing. It's not necessarily always about birthing a child. Excuse me, has to do with occult. It's the it could be loans. It would be a good time to get a loan. It also represents sexuality. And I always see the 8th house as kind of like a channel to people that have passed over, so a medium. So there's a chance with this new moon highlighting it, especially with Neptune next to it, that you could, your channel to the other side, people that have passed over, could be stronger. Or you feel them. It's not necessarily people hear them or talk, it could be that you just feel somebody that has passed that was close to you, around you. And but I would always talk to them, because you never know when the answer from them might come through, if you really need to connect with somebody that has passed over. The other planets that are in there are Venus, Neptune, and of course the sun and moon, because it's the new moon. So the new moon itself is the moon represents emotions and passions, and the sun represents your will, creativity. It can be a little arrogance, fun. It also represents like theater work or drama, acting. So with Neptune there, Neptune represents your spirituality, your artistic abilities, actually even spiritual art, if you want to put them both together. Neptune also represents addictions and seeing things through rose-colored glasses, where you see the higher self of people, the good in them, but you kind of block out not seeing any bad side to people, which is basically you're kidding yourself about some people, because it is about illusions. You're not seeing it clearly. And you really want to be careful with that, especially in this house with sexuality and sex being involved in it. That if you're starting a new relationship, if something else is going on in your 7th house, you really want to be careful before you take that relationship to the next step, because you might not be seeing everything about them. Maybe they're addicted and you're not realizing it right now. So really watch and take your time, because you're not seeing it clearly with Neptune there. And then you have Venus, which is very artistic. It's also about money and love relationships and sexuality. And with Venus there in the eighth house, if you're wanting to get a loan, it might be a good time to try and get a loan, because eighth house is other people's money. So that includes loans, but it also includes debt. So maybe you're wanting to get a second mortgage or refinance or something, and then you can pay off some credit card debt, so you only have your mortgage payment. So that's a lot of the things that are going to represent for the month of March for the new moon, in the house that it is being triggered in. So the other houses in the chart that would be triggered would be the fifth house. You have the south node there. And the fifth house, it's going to be in Sagittarius. So the fifth house represents luck, creativity, children, and the south node being there is kind of like your gifts from your past. And it could also be your karma from the past, or past lives. So people, especially children, maybe you're meeting some children for the first time, and some of them just feel so familiar to you. It might be an interaction you had in another lifetime. So moving on to the sixth house is your Pluto is in the sixth house, and that's in Capricorn. So the sixth house represents your daily work, your actual, what you do with your tasks. And it doesn't just, it could be your daily things that you do around the house. It has to do with the details. It's not necessarily your career, but it's the details of your day-to-day life. And it also represents health. So with Pluto there, this is a perfect time to start really evaluating the foods you're eating, and maybe even consider starting to grow your own food. At least some of it is, some foods you can actually grow in the house, like lettuce and that, if you don't have land. Or do them in pots with spring coming in. Consider start growing your own carrots, potatoes, and that can all be done in containers. So it's about getting healthier. Pluto is the death and rebirth, so the old way of eating is going to change. It has to change. So, maybe when you're at the store, you're being triggered to start buying more fruits and vegetables and eating healthier, not eating so much, picking up the junk food kind of stuff, because you don't want to create issues with your health right now. So it's about transformation and how you relate with your body and how food relates with you also. So the next house would be the seventh house, and that is a big house this go around right now. It's the relationship house. It's business partnerships. It's intimate partnerships. It's contracts. And being in Aquarius is on this house. So it's the type of people, Aquarian people would be the type of people that you are being drawn to. So that could be astrologers, technology, so IT people, anything with computers. It can have to do with helping humanity move forward, because Aquarius is very humanitarian, having compassion. It's also very independent. So you would attract more independent people into your life right now. And Aquarians can also, because they are so independent, that, some people, until you get to know them, the Aquarians start off as being very kind of cold or distant, detached. Um, and that's because they do have so much compassion that in order to protect their heart, they have to have that buffer of detachment, independence, to help them get through. And the planets that are being triggered in this house right now are Saturn, Jupiter, and Mercury. So Saturn represents karma. It represents foundations. So any relationships that you are starting right now or in, you want to have a solid foundation. So you're going to have to take your time. You're going to have to be more patient. Jupiter does not necessarily represent patience, but it does represent luck, and it does represent abundance, and it represents your values, how you value things, and so how you value relationships. And having Mercury here, Mercury is the planet of communication. So I would see at this time that you might find that there's more harmony in relationships, and more fun and humor, and just having a good time. And I'm saying that because Jupiter a is connected with Sagittarius, which is a good time. Mercury is quick-witted, and so another thing about the type of people you would draw to you right now, being that Aquarian, is they are very quick-witted too, and they are very eccentric people. They're kind of like those rebels. So kind of see that aspect of them, so you're not surprised. so so the next house would be the 10th house, which is Taurus, and that's your career. It has a planet Uranus in it, and so Uranus can be sudden changes. If you're not liking your job, you might lose your job. If you've been really focusing on how much you hate your job, you're kind of creating to lose that job. And it could be sudden, out of the blue. You could be inspired to start a new career. You could get a new job. It's just like sudden changes that you weren't expecting. Maybe a headhunter for a job that you really wanted might start coming forth, tracking you down, where you're not even looking for a new career. They come in and approach you. So kind of expect some changes. It does take a while for that planet also to go through this house. So it doesn't mean that the whole time it's in there that you're going to be changing jobs. So, and just know, and it can also, because the opposite of the 10th house is the 4th, you could suddenly move, or changes in your home. The next house that's being triggered is the 11th house, and that's in Gemini. And Mars and the North Node are in Gemini. So Mars is the action planet, where Gemini is communication, and the 11th house represents your hopes and dreams. It represents friends, groups, organizations, and it represents humanity. It represents going for your passions. And having Mars there is a great time to start moving towards your passion, because it gives you the energy to do it. And Mars is the go-getter, that warrior action. Just kind of be careful that you're not being too aggressive, like with your friends, or if you're out in groups, organizations. Kind of watch the level of energy there. Um, and that's communicating to groups. Maybe you're going to be a speaker. Um, and that would satisfy your north node of being communicating and getting your truths out. So I hope this was helpful to you, and have a great month and do something really creative. Thank you.